Thank you, Ivan and Anna. I'm Kristian Dwyer, glad to have you with us. Today sparks a historic moment in the history of DHK News and West Australian journalism, as tonight we launch WA Tonight, bringing you current affairs from the state and beyond. We start our program tonight with a look at the cost of living in Western Australia. It was not so long ago that Perth was dubbed one of the cheapest places in Australia to live. But in the wake of the carbon tax, as well as other contributing factors, affordability has skyrocketed. Timothy Seow has more.
It used to be the mantle of the East, the dearest place to live, as town centres such as Fremantle, Mandurah, and even Perth and neighbouring suburbs used to be an affordable alternative to the hustle and bustle of Melbourne and Sydney. But that's all changed. According to figures sourced by the Labour Party, gas has raised 57%, power 62%, and water 47% since the incumbent government has come into power. If these statistics are true, that's an alarming figure. A lot of blame is put on the carbon tax and big companies charging more on the everyday Australian household. However, support for a carbon tax just isn't there, with research by the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or ACCI for short, showing in March last year that 59% of Australians didn't want a carbon tax, and that a further 54% believed that it wouldn't make a difference to the environment. For every yin, there's a yang, however, and there are optimists out there who believe that once leveled out, the carbon tax will be imperative to Australia meeting its aim to reduce global emissions. The opposition, however, does not share such optimism, with Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Ben Wyatt, claiming in a recent press conference that he expected further price rise in the electricity over the coming years.
But what is clear is that the basis of that modelling is all around the fact that the government is committed to a further 25% increase in electricity price rises across the forward estimates, which means if Colin Barnett is re-elected, there will indeed be a 25% increase in electricity prices as per the budget, and contrary to Mr Barnett's claims that any future increases will only be at the rate of inflation. Mr Barnett has always refused to cost that commitment about price rises at the rate of inflation. He won't bring it into the mid-year review, and Mr Buswell's Treasury modelling that he's apparently had done confirms the fact that indeed there will be a further 25% increase in power prices.
It seems to be a pressing matter for the Labour Party leading up to the 2013 election, and with suggestions that Premier Colin Barnett was brushing aside the potential rate increase as just an estimate as stated in the state budget.
Well, what we are in now, in 5 months out from an election, if indeed those figures aren't correct, Mr Barnett needs to tell us what those power price rises will be, and he needs to tell us what that will cost, so that we have a very crystal clear understanding of the state of the finances. If Mr Barnett doesn't bring into the mid-year review a different glide path for those power prices, then Western Australians will indeed face a 25% increase in power prices in the event that Mr Barnett is re-elected.
Timothy Seow, WA Tonight.
Thank you, Timothy. We'll have more updates on that story as we know it. But now, an update on what's making news in Perth and Hong Kong with Ivan Leung.
Thanks very much, Kristian. Making news on DHK Tonight, Emergency Services Minister Troy Buswell announced the beginning of the bushfire season, where he launched Bushfire Action Week. More than 100 jobs are set to go across the nation as Channel 10, with the MEAA speculating 18 jobs will be cut in Perth. In Hong Kong, the Digital Broadcasting Corporation's employees held a protest outside the government headquarters, demanding the authorities to investigate whether or not the station was suppressed due to political reasons. And the historic Cross Harbour Swim in Hong Kong was held on Sunday, with more than 1,700 citizens participating in the competition. If you missed the evening news, you can click on the link below to watch it again. Here's Kristian.
Thank you, Ivan. On the topic of spending, the WA government has been doing just that, with more infrastructure in this financial year planned than in its last 3 years. It's all been a part of Barnett's See the Bigger Picture campaign and a future vision for Perth towards 2020. Patryk Lazarz has more.
We've got the new beach, the pineapple, and of course the transformer head. But what exactly is going on in our city? You may have been told by Premier Colin Barnett to see the big picture about the new works in the city, but just what is being built? Let's start with Elizabeth Quay, the centre point of the CBD revival works and the heart of the new waterfront development. It's also a potential hub for tourism and will open many jobs, especially as the state government is seeking tenders for a premium hotel brand to build on the site. Then there's the Perth Arena, which is expected to host the Wildcats by the end of the year, despite a lot of comparisons with Optimus Prime. The nearby pineapple-shaped totem, which is worth thousands of dollars, shoots lights onto the outside of the arena and will make the arena look just that little bit more attractive. Add that to the City Link, which aims to connect Northbridge to the CBD, the new 60,000-seater Perth Stadium, and the new Fiona Stanley Hospital, and you've got a lot happening in a humble state metro area. And with the elections around the corner, who's to say that our infrastructure won't continue to grow? Patryk, Lazarz, WA Tonight.
Our final story tonight takes us to the opposite side of Australia, where a battle is being waged between American food giant McDonald's and local activists who oppose the building of a store on a site in the hilltop town. Setting up a near 24/7 vigil on the site in Tecoma, the activists have occupied the site, as well as setting up a Facebook page to promote their activism against the fast food chain. Even disgraced Dr. Jai Patel, aka Dr. Deaf, cannot escape the satire of the activists as one young man, brandishing stethoscope and name badge, made his stand against McDonald's.
And I'm amazed that you're...
I don't think they get it. A lot of people aren't getting it.
But it's not all McDonald's haters down in bushy Victoria, and we're joined tonight on the phone by neighbouring Belgrave resident Tat. Tat, welcome to the show.
Not too bad, Chris.
Tat, what exactly is the situation down there in Tecoma?
Honestly, at the moment, a complete mess. When the protesters took up the location on the proposed site for McDonald's a few weeks ago, there's been rubbish scattered throughout the streets. Currently, there's a handful of people who live, eat and sleep on the grounds. There's no public toilets, no running water or anything else on the premises. The protesters have turned what used to be a nice, well-maintained, grassy, empty block of land into a complete eyesore. Not to mention they've had their kids involved too. Kids as young as babies have been taken there, which would be completely unhygienic.
How does this affect Tecoma? What are the pros of having a McDonald's down there?
The pros of having a McDonald's would be, for a few years now, or for many years now, in fact, there's been nowhere for teenagers or even young adults to get suitable employment throughout the hills. I remember when I used to be 15, 16, I had to travel for about an hour to find work at the local shopping centre. With a McDonald's in town, it means those who want employment can find suitable work that doesn't discriminate about age or sex. Furthermore, generally, once 7 or 8 p.m. comes around, all the food outlets in the area are closed. Those who work night shift either have to go to work or coming home from work have to find somewhere else to eat at those hours. Something convenient needs to be available for everybody.
What's the local reaction to the site of which the Tecoma McDonald's is supposed to be at?
At the moment it's divided between sort of a 50-50 split. Some of the locals obviously are protesting against the McDonald's being built. However, then there's another group who are all for it. The buildings that have been marked for demolition for McDonald's have been there for years now with graffiti and now have been covered with no McDonald's signs, just adding to the ugliness of the area. The protesters have been there 24/7 holding up signs, asking people to honk their horns to support their cause. This happens daily, only across the road from a primary school where kids are trying to learn. I know when I was a kid, loud noises used to distract me all the time, and I feel sorry for them today. There's only still a small percentage of people who live in the hills that are protesting, though. When you think about it, there was 1,100 signatures for a petition to go up against VCAT in regards to this, but 1,100 signatures in comparison to, I think it's around 25 to 30,000 people who live in Tecoma or in the surrounding suburbs. Still a very small population who are against it.
But let's go back to the start. Why is this occurring? Why are there so many people involved? And who are they?
At the end of the day, everyone wants a voice. and there'll be people for and against. Those who are against had their chance at VCAT to voice their opinions, but could not come up with enough support to be noticed. Their points like McDonald's will make our kids fat, or comparing the traffic flow currently in Tacoma of that of a freeway on-ramp. Sorry, but those views are only what some people feel and not the actual truth. For most of the protesters are currently unemployed who sit there day in and day out. Most of them have never really had a real job, but call their life a modern art form. This is not who is against this is not who is the minority. I mean, this is not everyone who is against just the majority. When I was on location a week ago, the compound, there was more people walking around with bark strapped to their feet rather than actual shoes and socks. The use of hippie/tree hugger has been thrown out on numerous occasions, but we're all people at the end of the day. What people need to understand is they do not need to support Macca's. No one is forcing them to eat McDonald's, but don't force the fact that there may be some people who do. Let everybody have their choice on the matter and let them support whoever they feel.
Tap, thank you for your time.
Not a problem, Chris. I hope this brings more of an insight into what's happening around the rest of Australia.
Sadly, that's all we have time for tonight. If there's a current affairs story you'd like to see covered or would like to give us some feedback, leave us a message on our Facebook page. On behalf of myself and the DHK News team, good night and stay safe, Western Australia.